Master, are you all right? Lumi worriedly asked. Orion calmly shook his head and smiled. I had already been trapped in my own sea of consciousness for over half a year. I have a little bit of experience in this. But only 6 months and 500 years have a big difference. Exhaling softly, he said, yes, it was indeed a long time. But my mental fortitude is also very strong due to my lineages. I have a long lifespan, so I can handle the passage of time much better. Ah, I forgot about that. Yes, with your dragon lineages, you will live for much longer, and your endurance should also be like that. But 500 years in solitude is too much. This test is out for your blood, Master. Epsilon. Orion laughed softly at Lumi's spirited outburst, shaking his head lightly as he glanced upward, determination rekindling in his eyes. The pressure around him began to return to its previous oppressive intensity, yet strangely enough, he found himself capable of withstanding it far better now, as if those 500 years of solitude had strengthened not only his will but also his mental resilience and adaptability. A subtle smile crossed Orion's lips as he murmured thoughtfully, interesting. It appears those centuries were not completely wasted after all. Master, it seems that the trial wasn't just about endurance. It also sharpened your mental defenses and ability to handle stress. Lumi cheerfully noted, immediately detecting the subtle shift in Orion's mental fortitude. Orion nodded silently, adjusting his breathing once more as he took steady, confident steps upward. Each footfall brought forth a stronger surge of pressure, but his determination remained unshakable. His physique, soul, and elemental affinities felt heavy beneath the intensifying force, yet the new adaptability he had acquired through the last trial allowed him to continue ascending steadily. Slowly, Orion continued upward, climbing past the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd steps. His muscles strained, sweat beginning to bead upon his brow, yet his expression remained calm, filled with resolve. Each step, though more challenging than the previous, felt increasingly manageable to him. As he reached the 29th step, Orion paused briefly, steadying his breathing and allowing himself a moment of contemplation. He knew instinctively that the upcoming 30th step would likely hold another significant trial, probably even more difficult than the last two. Taking a slow, deep breath, Orion decisively stepped forward onto the 30th step. Instantly, his surroundings twisted and dissolved into a vortex of golden-white brilliance. Reality shifted rapidly around him until he found himself hovering gently in midair, far above an enormous, complex structure constructed entirely from glowing runes. Orion's breath caught momentarily, his gaze sharpening as he observed the intricate structure below. Countless runes, vibrant and intricate, lay scattered and jumbled in chaotic disarray across a vast expanse that stretched out in every direction. The runes pulsed softly with a mystical radiance, radiating an ancient, profound power. Suddenly, a calm, neutral voice resonated within the mental space, clearly announcing the next challenge. Trial of profound comprehension. The challenger must solve and reconstruct the abstract rune formation without assistance from external treasures, techniques, or artifacts. Only the strength of one's own comprehension and will is allowed. Orion tilted his head slightly, looking at the colossal, disorderly rune formation below. He softly muttered, more to himself than anyone else, so, I have to solve this now? No reply came, the space around him returning to profound silence. Orion nodded to himself, eyes narrowing sharply. He carefully tested his willpower, mentally grasping one of the scattered runes below. Instantly, the chosen rune line moved gently according to his intent. Satisfied by the intuitive response, Orion soared downward gracefully, flying slowly around the vast, disordered rune structure. From every possible angle, he meticulously observed the countless intricate symbols and their placements, gradually comprehending the structure's scale, nature, and complexity. After he came back above, he paused at the exact center, suspended gently above the vast puzzle. Taking a slow, deep breath, he began the painstaking task of reconstructing the rune formation. His mental energy reached forth, gently grasping and repositioning runes, attempting to reconnect their intricate patterns and hidden relationships. Time became meaningless once more, blending seamlessly as Orion immersed himself deeply within the profound puzzle. His mind operated at peak capacity, utterly focused, systematically sorting through tens of thousands of runic possibilities and combinations every second. Minutes blurred into hours, hours steadily stretched into days. Orion's mind strained fiercely under the continuous mental exertion, yet he refused to pause, entirely devoted to comprehending the mysterious formation. Bit by bit, the abstract rune structure gradually emerged, restored through relentless trial and error, intense deduction, and powerful insight. Days passed without rest. Orion's gaze remained fiercely determined, undistracted by hunger, fatigue, or boredom. His comprehension grew increasingly profound, and his intuitive understanding of the rune formation's underlying principles sharpened dramatically. Weeks passed in uninterrupted concentration. His progress, though slow and arduous, steadily advanced as the chaotic mass of runes gradually took clearer shape beneath his diligent guidance. Even Lumi remained silently supportive, unwilling to disrupt Orion's profound state of absolute concentration. Finally, after a grueling 81 days of constant mental effort, Orion completed the final, critical arrangement of runes. The massive rune formation below abruptly resonated, surging brilliantly as the entire structure stabilized, bursting forth in a spectacular display of golden light. Orion exhaled deeply, feeling an immense wave of relief and accomplishment flood through him. A serene, approving voice softly echoed throughout the mental space. Trial of profound comprehension, passed. Challenger's comprehension acknowledged. Orion slowly relaxed, feeling the accumulated mental fatigue from 81 days of relentless concentration now pressing heavily upon him. Yet beneath his fatigue existed a profound sense of achievement. His understanding of runes, his ability to decode abstract relationships, and his mental endurance had clearly advanced immensely through this challenge. Lumi's voice, filled with pride and admiration, gently resonated within Orion's sea of consciousness, breaking the lengthy silence she had maintained. "Master, that was amazing. I didn't want to distract you, but I watched your comprehension deepen with every passing day. You really passed the trial with flying colors." Orion smiled faintly, his voice calm yet tinged with amusement. "Of course, who do you take me for? I excel at everything I do." Lumi softly giggled before her voice turned curious as she asked. "But what was that formation for? It took you such a long time, there must be a reason, right?" Orion thoughtfully rubbed his chin as he remembered the time when he realized the use of the formation. I can't be too sure. It seems to be the key of some place, or rather a part of a bigger formation. I would need to learn more about formations if I want to decode it further." "Oh, will you do that, Master?" He slowly shook his head. "That's a whole can of worms that I don't want to open right now. I already have too much on my plate. Maybe I will look for someone well-versed in formations and ask them for it. Though this place really took me 3 months, I don't know if that's fast or slow." "That's gotta be fast, Master. How many people can even solve that place, if any at all? But these trials are really hard." Orion exhaled gently, thinking about the remaining steps. "The trials here are ruthless indeed, but I suppose that's precisely why they're here. Every level seems designed explicitly to push me to my very limits and beyond." Taking a few moments to steady himself and fully recover from the intense ordeal, Orion floated upward again, the rune structure dissolving gently beneath him into faint particles of golden brilliance. The staircase reappeared, waiting calmly for him to ascend further. Orion landed gracefully back upon the crystal stairway, pausing to collect himself before looking upward. His gaze settled resolutely on the path ahead, voice calm yet firm. "Well, there's no point hesitating. Let's see what other hellish tests await me. Let's go." Orion lightly laughed at her response as the pressure around him slowly started increasing. Now he could clearly feel his limits approaching. Taking a steady breath, he took a step forward and began his ascent again. The crystalline staircase beneath his feet shimmered faintly with a soothing, ethereal glow, yet the sensation it delivered was far from comforting. He knew that each step upward would now feel as if it were pressing upon his very soul, squeezing his physical body, elemental energies, and mental faculties. Taking another deep breath, Orion carefully began his slow ascent. The moment his foot touched the 31st step, the oppressive pressure intensified sharply, causing his muscles to immediately strain beneath the enormous burden. His soul felt weighed down, his elemental affinities vibrating under constant stress, yet he pressed on, fueled by sheer determination and stubborn defiance. Step after step, Orion ascended, each forward stride an exhausting battle. As he passed the 33rd, 34th, and 35th steps, sweat poured steadily down his forehead, soaking his clothing and making each movement more uncomfortable and taxing. Despite the steadily increasing fatigue, Orion maintained a composed demeanor, his gaze unyielding and resolute. By the time he reached the 38th step, Orion's whole body felt heavier than lead, every muscle fiber hurting, every nerve frayed from prolonged stress. His soul trembled from relentless strain, while his elemental affinities felt frayed, barely holding together under the intense external pressure. Yet, despite these conditions, Orion continued forward with an unwavering determination that shone fiercely within his eyes. Finally, standing on the 39th step, Orion felt as though he had reached the absolute limit of his endurance. His body shook subtly, the sheer intensity of the cumulative pressure nearly overwhelming him. Holy fuck, why is the ascent so damn hard, he inwardly thought with frustration. He then took a deep, slow breath, stabilizing himself as he prepared for the next trial, knowing instinctively it would likely surpass everything he had faced until now. With every ounce of resolve he possessed, Orion firmly stepped forward onto the 40th step. In an instant, everything around him shifted dramatically. The crushing pressure vanished abruptly, leaving Orion momentarily disoriented. His surroundings transformed entirely, replaced by an endless sea of white clouds extending infinitely in every direction. The gentle fragrance of flowers drifted softly through the air, accompanied by delicate, translucent petals that slowly fluttered downwards in a graceful dance. Momentarily bewildered by the tranquil beauty of his new environment, Orion glanced around carefully, eyes narrowing slightly in suspicion. "What is this now?" he murmured, voice wary and alert. He had barely finished speaking when suddenly an immense, suffocating pressure descended from high above, locking onto him with unmistakable hostile intent. Instinctively, Orion's gaze snapped sharply upward, eyes widening in shock. From high above, a colossal hand formed from shimmering golden clouds swiftly descended toward him, its immense size blotting out the sky, pressing downward with unstoppable momentum. Its sheer size and aura exuded an overwhelmingly oppressive power, threatening to utterly crush and obliterate Orion's already exhausted form. Faced with imminent danger, Orion's instincts erupted fiercely within him. Already fatigued from all his previous trials, he gathered every remaining ounce of his strength and determination, channeling his soul and elemental energies at maximum intensity. His eyes flashed with brilliant azure lightning, and his body erupted into a dazzling transformation. In an instant, Orion shifted fully into his mighty thunder dragon form. Powerful azure lightning danced across his massive, scaled body, filling the surrounding air with electrifying energy. His wings stretched wide, crackling with potent power. At the same time, he swiftly unsheathed both of his swords, gripping them tightly in his massive claws. Immediately, he ignited both blades, channeling intermediate-grade sword auras, fiery crimson flames blazing brilliantly upon one sword, vibrant azure lightning fiercely surging along the other. With a thunderous roar, Orion swung both swords upward with every bit of strength he could muster, while also unleashing a devastating thunder dragon breath, aiming directly toward the colossal descending palm. The two elemental sword auras surged forth together with the dragon's breath in a brilliant burst, colliding fiercely with the gigantic hand. A deafening explosion echoed across the sea of clouds, shaking the entire illusionary space violently. The immense impact hurled Orion backward through the air, his body spinning uncontrollably, the overwhelming backlash sending agonizing jolts through every inch of his form. As he spiraled backward, Orion saw cracks appear along the sky itself, shattering and fracturing the previously serene and deceptive illusion. Reality rapidly splintered around him, the tranquil clouds and drifting petals dissolving violently into chaotic fragments. Despite his best efforts, Orion couldn't regain his balance as the illusion shattered completely. In the blink of an eye, he was thrust violently back onto the crystalline staircase, tumbling down its shining steps at breakneck speed. He crashed downward, step after step, the pain from each impact searing through his exhausted body, forcing him further downward with relentless momentum. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Orion came to a painful halt at the very base of the staircase. He groaned softly, sprawled awkwardly across the gleaming surface, every muscle aching fiercely, every fiber of his being utterly exhausted. Within his sea of consciousness, Lumi looked at the scene with a speechless expression. "Master, are you all right? That last trial was ruthless." Orion coughed weakly, slowly forcing himself upright with immense effort. His body felt battered and bruised as he looked towards the 40th step. However, just then, a gentle warmth radiated across Orion's forehead. The familiar sensation startled him, causing his eyes to snap open as the golden headband slowly materialized, settling comfortably upon his brow. Its runes shimmered gently with a golden brilliance, instantly soothing the exhaustion and chaos that still lingered in Orion's mind. Before Orion could question its appearance, a calm voice resonated clearly from within the headband. "Trial taker, you have successfully passed the 40th step. However, due to your exhausted state, you were unable to withstand the after-effects, resulting in your fall back to the bottom. Nonetheless, your victory stands confirmed." Orion blinked, momentarily stunned. The sudden announcement washed over him with relief, yet surprise colored his expression. He still felt fatigued and weak all over his body, yet this small announcement of his victory filled him with energy. Before he could fully process this revelation, the golden headband spoke once more, its voice echoing even more deeply in Orion's mind. "Congratulations for breaking the previous record and passing the 40th step on your first attempt. You have been placed at the 10th rank of this floor." Orion stared blankly at the space in front of him, speechless for several moments. His heart raced, realization slowly dawning upon him. He had not only succeeded in a seemingly impossible challenge but also shattered a long-standing record on his first attempt. Even Lumi remained momentarily stunned, silent at Orion's incredible feat. "Ranked 10th already, huh?" Orion finally murmured softly, breaking the quiet stillness surrounding him. Despite his battered condition, a small yet satisfied smile appeared on his lips. Still, exhaustion clouded his mind heavily, reminding him of the toll this achievement had exacted. He slowly shook his head, gathering himself together. His expression softened slightly, a gentle sigh escaping his lips. "I should return now. I don't even know how much time has passed here," Orion whispered, his voice faint. "Grandpa and Grandma must be worried sick." Lumi immediately echoed his concern, her voice gentle but anxious. "Yes, Master, it's been months since we arrived here. They must be concerned as hell. Let's hurry back for now. We can return to explore more later." Orion nodded slowly, casting one last lingering glance toward the crystalline stairway stretching endlessly upward, its radiant brilliance silently beckoning challengers forward. Though eager to explore further, Orion knew that now was not the right moment. His current priority was returning home safely to ease his family's worries. Exhaling deeply once more, Orion quietly activated the golden headband, mentally commanding it to get him back. Instantly, the headband responded. Warm golden light enveloped Orion gently, the familiar sensation comforting. The staircase and the vast expanse around him slowly faded away, dissolving into particles of golden brilliance as Orion vanished entirely from sight. Meanwhile, at the second zone, a large gathering of other trial takers who had silently watched Orion's astonishing performance stood frozen, staring incredulously at the now empty space where Orion had just vanished. Shock and disbelief filled their expressions, whispers rapidly spreading among the stunned observers. "Did you see that? He cleared the 40th step on his first attempt. That's unheard of. Who exactly is this dude?" Without further hesitation, several individuals rushed toward a towering, ornate board placed beside the staircase, a special ranking board reserved for the highest achievers among challengers. Their eyes widened collectively in astonishment upon seeing the glowing new entry placed clearly at the 10th spot. 10th rank, Primus. Whispers erupted among the gathered crowd, voices filled with surprise, curiosity, and a slight hint of envy. Another monster has joined us. How are we supposed to compete with someone who clears the 40th step on their first try? How did he get access to the Monkey King's legacy? It couldn't have been easy. Is he one of those rare geniuses chosen directly by Lord Wukong himself? Others nodded solemnly, understanding that the Monkey King's legacy could be obtained through numerous methods. Some discovered the corpse of a previous trial taker, others inherited it from their predecessors, others luckily chanced upon it without a trial, and many more. Yet among all the different kinds of trial takers, a single particular group stood out, the people who passed the test of Wukong himself. Everyone wondered which category Primus belonged to. Regardless of how he gained it, he's clearly not ordinary. We'll have to watch closely. The crowd buzzed with discussion, speculation, and excitement reverberating throughout the space. Meanwhile, atop the ranking board, Primus's name glowed quietly, a testament to Orion's exceptional talent and relentless determination. Back in his familiar room, Orion slowly opened his eyes, still sitting cross-legged atop the meditation mat, exactly as he had been before he'd entered the legacy grounds. The serene silence, illuminated gently by the afternoon sunlight filtering through the large windows, felt oddly surreal. Everything remained precisely as he'd left it. The peacefulness and stillness of the room were a striking contrast to the grueling challenges and intense pressure he'd endured within the Monkey King's legacy. Exhaling a long breath, Orion's gaze drifted slowly toward the window. The gentle, golden rays of the afternoon sun bathed the room in comforting warmth, painting soft patterns across the polished wooden floor. Nothing had changed at all. With a puzzled expression, Orion murmured softly, "I wonder how long has passed." Lumi remained silent for a brief moment, her usually bright and bubbly presence tinged with a strange, curious uncertainty. Finally, she murmured quietly within Orion's sea of consciousness. "Strange, the time, it seems strange." Orion immediately raised an eyebrow, sensing the confusion in Lumi's voice. Concerned yet intrigued, he questioned, "What do you mean? How is it strange?" Rather than merely speaking, Lumi materialized her translucent system screen form before him. Her avatar gently floated midair, her text pointing toward the silent hall cube placed at the center of the room. Her voice resonated softly, thoughtful yet slightly bewildered. "Look at that, Master. The silent hall cube has barely used any mana from the mana crystals you put in it, if at all. It seems like time was nearly paused while we were inside the legacy grounds." Orion's expression froze briefly, realization dawning upon him like a sudden burst of clarity. His eyes widened slightly, staring fixedly at the cube. "I see, so that's the case," he finally whispered, shaking his head slightly in admiration and disbelief. "Damn, this is something else. Time manipulation at such a massive scale, as expected of the Monkey King." He quietly laughed under his breath, unable to fully suppress the awe and wonderment welling within his heart. The power to control or nearly halt the flow of time itself on such a massive scale that it affects not only his world but all other worlds, such strength and profound understanding left him both shocked and inspired. With another gentle shake of his head, Orion felt exhaustion weighing heavily upon him once again. Now that he knew little to no actual time had passed, his body and soul clearly remembered the intensity of the trials. Rising carefully from the meditation mat, Orion stretched slightly, allowing his muscles to loosen and relax. "I will just rest then," he said softly, smiling wryly at Lumi. "Too much stress for a single day." Lumi's translucent screen gently floated along beside him as he moved toward his bed. Her voice carried amusement as she responded warmly, "It was a long day?" "Hee, it was certainly eventful, Master." Orion chuckled lightly, nodding in quiet agreement. Yet, just as he was about to reply, a familiar warmth bloomed across his forehead once again. Orion paused, his eyes narrowing slightly in suspicion as the golden headband softly materialized upon his brow. Before he could voice his confusion, a separate golden-tinged screen shimmered into existence before him. It hovered gently, glowing with radiance. On it, Orion clearly saw a single new message. Continuum, oh? We have a new member? Primus? Come on, introduce yourself to your seniors here. Orion stared incredulously at the screen, momentarily stunned into silence. It felt surreal to him, he couldn't believe he was seeing this in this world. Shaking himself slightly from his daze, Orion slowly gathered his thoughts. With a small internal sigh, he mentally formulated his reply. As he thought it clearly, shimmering golden letters formed on the screen. Primus, Continuum? Is this a group chat? There was a brief pause, during which Orion simply sat cross-legged upon his bed, patiently awaiting a response. The silence lingered briefly, only broken when new words began appearing rapidly. Continuum, of course, this is a special prize for the top 10 rankers of a floor. But who are you? I don't think I have heard of your name before. Orion's lips curved into a faint smile at the confusion evident in Continuum's tone. He was certain that Continuum never expected a newcomer to arrive at such a ranking so quickly. Amused and slightly eager to see his senior's reaction, Orion mentally responded. Primus, I'm Orion, we met in the tower just now. There was another short silence, as if Continuum needed extra time to process what he had just read. Then, as expected, a shocked reply immediately appeared, filled with blatant disbelief. Continuum, huh? What the fuck? How did you reach top 10 already? Were you there for hundreds of years already? Orion chuckled softly, genuinely entertained by Continuum's bewilderment. He had sensed that his achievement was exceptional, yet seeing Continuum's genuine astonishment provided an oddly satisfying feeling. His mental response appeared smoothly and calmly on the screen. Primus, no, I went straight for the stairs after you left. It was quite challenging. I only managed to pass the 40th step. This time, Continuum responded with a series of dots, speechless in his stunned disbelief. Continuum. Suddenly, several other names began to appear on the golden screen, evidently the other top rankers. Astral, wait, did he just say he cleared the 40th step right after entering? Crimson Lotus, is this for real? It took me 5 tries just to break through the 35th. Voidwalker, someone pinch me, am I hallucinating? Each reaction mirrored Continuum's shock, with each new message appearing quickly after the other, filled with astonishment and incredulity. Orion stared at the screen and looked at the new names appearing with curiosity. But after a few seconds, no new messages came. After another pause, he typed. Primus, why did everyone go silent all of a sudden? It was Continuum who finally broke the stunned quietness, his golden letters filled with shock. Continuum, fucking monster. A moment of silence followed as Orion processed Continuum's blunt reply. Then, abruptly, laughter spilled softly from Orion's lips. The bewildered reactions of these powerful, accomplished individuals made Orion feel a unique sense of pride and amusement. Lumi, silently hovering at his side, let out a bright, giggly laugh, clearly entertained by the ongoing scene. Hee hee, master. It seems you've stunned them completely. Their reactions are priceless. Orion nodded with a grin on his face. Seems I made a bigger impression than I thought. After thinking about it for a second, he decided to send another message. Primus, anyways, how many people are here? Continuum, guess it. Since you are ranked 10th. Primus, so are there 10 people here? Continuum, of course not. There are only 7 people right now. The first ranked, our group leader, left to the higher floor some time ago. While 2 others died. Astral, no need to scare the newcomer Gramps. I know you are old and have seen everything. Go and rest your old bones, otherwise the people chasing you will get you. Continuum, Worry about yourself, Astral. You don't have it much better in your world. Orion looked at the chat in wonder as he said to himself, truly, it doesn't take long for a chat to descend into chaos when there are more than 2 people. Hee hee, it's funny to see the chats though, master. Orion chuckled and nodded his head in agreement before sending a message. Primus, Where are the members here from? Astral, all of us are from different kiliocosms. You won't even know the name, so it doesn't matter if you ask that. Primus, do you guys also fight with demons in your kiliocosm? The entire chat became silent just as he asked that. Continuum sent a message next. Continuum, yes, nearly all kiliocosms are infested with demons. We call them the Dark Faction. Orion took a deep breath and silently looked at the screen. Astral, the two of our members who died were also fighting demons before they died. Crimson Lotus, they reproduce like maggots. No matter how many I burn, they keep coming back. Sigh. Orion inwardly shook his head. Primus, my world is also on the verge of a war with them. I need to be prepared for this eventually. Continuum, if you can, then get someone who has learned the light element on your side. They are the most effective against most demons. But you need to be very selective and find the rare fighting type light element users. Voidwalker, they are some of the rarest specimens. Most of the light element users' nature is inherently pure and gentle, so finding those who fight openly is rare. Orion continued to read the chat, golden letters flashing above quickly. The screen glowed faintly, illuminating his contemplative expression. He felt oddly comforted, realizing he wasn't alone in his struggles. There were others, scattered across countless kiliocosms, who also bore the heavy responsibility of fighting against the encroaching darkness. After reading the final message from Voidwalker about the scarcity of combat-oriented light element users, Orion took a deep breath, eyes narrowing slightly as his thoughts quickly solidified. He knew what he had to do. Mentally composing his reply, golden text appeared swiftly. Primus, then I'll go and look for something. Without waiting for further responses, Orion gently disconnected from the mysterious group chat. The screen flickered once, then quietly vanished. A moment later, the golden headband upon his brow dissolved into faint motes of golden light, retreating silently into his sea of consciousness. Exhaling slowly, Orion's shoulders slumped slightly with the thoughts of new knowledge. His thoughts churned rapidly, reflecting deeply upon everything he'd learned from the other legacy holders. A slight frown crossed his handsome face as he whispered quietly to himself, so, demons truly are a problem wherever they go, huh? Lumi's gentle voice chimed in softly within his sea of consciousness, a tone of agreement underlying her usual cheerfulness. They really are the ruin bringers of this world. Orion nodded quietly, his mood briefly low as he processed the implications. He understood now that the battle against the demons was far greater than merely his own world. It spanned countless realms and kiliocosms, a universal threat everyone faced. The seriousness of this revelation settled heavily in Orion's heart, deepening his sense of urgency. Slowly shaking his head, Orion straightened, feeling a sense of resolution replacing his weariness. With calm steps, he walked over to his bed, gently pulling back the soft covers. As he lay down, allowing himself to fully relax, Orion murmured softly yet firmly, "Whatever. At least now I know exactly what I want to do tomorrow. First, I'll rest today, and then I'll head out." Lumi responded gently, her voice soothing yet cheerful. "Rest well, master." Orion smiled faintly at her cheerful comedy. He replied warmly, "Good night, Lumi." Slowly, Orion's breathing evened out, his eyelids gradually closing as exhaustion fully claimed him. The quietness of his room surrounded him like a comforting embrace, providing a peaceful sanctuary after the intense mental and physical trials he'd endured for what felt like years to him. As the first gentle rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the city of Thunder Peak began to awaken. The sky was painted in delicate shades of soft oranges, purples, and red, a beautiful combination of colors heralding the arrival of a new day. Orion, refreshed and resolute, stepped calmly into his luxurious obsidian carriage waiting outside the grand entrance of his residence with Lucan and Edgar. The polished black surface gleamed softly under the warm glow of the rising sun, accented by intricately engraved silver runes that shimmered faintly. The carriage, exuding elegance and quiet authority, awaited Orion's arrival, drawn by a pair of majestic horses. Edgar opened the carriage window, gesturing for Orion to head inside. Orion entered smoothly and settled comfortably onto the plush cushions while Edgar took his seat opposite him. A thoughtful expression filled his handsome face as he gazed out the window, observing the bustling streets and waking citizens. Lucan swiftly got into his position and smoothly began the journey toward Thunder Peak Royal Academy. The only people on the streets were the students going toward the academy or the nobles going to and from their estates. Orion's obsidian carriage moved gracefully through the calm streets, effortlessly drawing attention from bystanders, whispers and curious gazes following his elegant conveyance as it had been a while since he last came to this area of the city. Inside, Orion sat quietly, his mind brimming with plans. His previous conversations with Continuum and the other legacy holders echoed within his thoughts. He understood clearly that he needed to act swiftly and decisively. His world stood precariously close to an inevitable confrontation with the demons, and Orion realized that the people he needed and wanted to protect were increasing. His fingers drummed lightly against the armrest, his expression calm yet resolute. "I should head there now. I've delayed it long enough," he murmured inwardly, solidifying his immediate goal. Lumi's voice gently resonated within his mind, cheerful and supportive as always. "I'm sure you'll find what you are looking for, Master. The Academy has all sorts of knowledge." Orion smiled inwardly, nodding slowly in agreement. "Indeed. I heard from Arya that it's there. Now about time I go and check it out." Soon, Orion's luxurious obsidian carriage rolled smoothly to a stop before the grand gates of Thunder Peak Royal Academy. The towering iron gates, engraved with intricate symbols depicting the Academy's glorious history, stood proudly in the morning sun, emanating a dignified air. As Orion calmly stepped out of the carriage, Edgar offered a respectful nod, while Lucan gently steered the horses and carriage to the side. Orion straightened his robes and approached the massive gates, showing his student badge to the guards standing watch. Recognizing his identity, they immediately opened the gates without question. Upon stepping inside the academy grounds, Orion paused briefly, noting that the once bustling pathways were unusually calm. Students still walked the paved walkways, but their numbers were noticeably reduced, many undoubtedly busy preparing for the upcoming second round of tests. Orion shook his head slightly, feeling a faint pang of nostalgia. He moved forward, his footsteps quiet yet steady onto the familiar path toward the academy library. He had no intention of heading toward the garden to meet with his friends today, knowing they were likely resting after their recent return from the small world. Arriving at the immense, imposing library building, Orion ascended the wide stone steps leading to the grand entrance. Inside, a counter was placed at the center with stairs on the right leading upward and another door on the left leading to the books and reading area of the first floor. Orion calmly approached the librarian's counter, noting immediately the presence of an elderly man he hadn't encountered before. The librarian had a neatly trimmed gray beard and sharp, wise eyes that scrutinized him with mild interest. With politeness, Orion nodded respectfully before speaking. "Excuse me, I'm here to collect my reward for the entrance test. I was promised 3 books from up to the 3rd tier." He placed his student badge gently onto the counter, waiting patiently. The elderly librarian lifted his brows slightly, carefully taking Orion's badge and examining it closely with his own. After a brief inspection, he nodded approvingly. "Ah, student Orion, you could have come earlier to get these. Anyways, what exactly do you want?" Orion paused thoughtfully, recalling the Vice Dean's exact words before responding. "What can I get exactly?" "If I remember correctly, the Vice Dean said I can select 3 spells from up to the 3rd tier. Hearing this, the librarian chuckled softly, shaking his head, amusement twinkling in his wise eyes. He meant 3 books, not exclusively spells. But to ensure all students, even the less bright ones, understood the reward, he simplified it to spells. Relieved at the broader selection, Orion released a quiet sigh of relief and quickly adjusted his choices, responding clearly. "Then, could I get the highest level book available about the light element, the strongest available tier 9 light element spell, and finally, the best book on runic and mana circuit theory?" The librarian's interest visibly grew, his eyes twinkling appreciatively. "Oh? Quite the interesting choice of books you've requested, student Orion. Very well. The elderly man rose slowly, moving into the library's deeper recesses. After several quiet moments, the librarian returned, carefully carrying 3 glistening memory crystals. He gently placed them before Orion on the polished counter, his expression serious yet approving. Here you are. These memory crystals were necessary due to the sheer amount of knowledge being too vast to record in ordinary books. Gesturing toward one of the crystals, he elaborated, this particular Tier 9 light affinity spell is called Heavenly Radiance, Divine Purification. It summons a massive, radiant pillar of divine light capable of purifying evil beings or lands. However, it demands a significant amount of mana. Be cautious when learning and using it. Orion reached out, carefully taking the crystals into his hands, feeling their subtle warmth and potent aura of knowledge. With a respectful nod, he expressed his gratitude, thank you very much for your help. The elderly librarian chuckled softly, waving his hand dismissively, amusement and approval evident in his voice, no need to thank me, young man. I'm merely curious to see how far you'll go. Orion smiled politely, turning away from the counter with determination burning steadily in his chest. He placed the memory crystals back inside his inventory and turned around to head toward the exit. His thoughts raced as he contemplated what he should read first after returning back home. Lumi's gentle, enthusiastic voice chimed within his sea of consciousness, carrying a tone of excitement and curiosity. Master, that Tier 9 light spell sounds incredible. Even though it doesn't seem like an offensive spell, it's still a good start. Orion lightly smiled and nodded. Yes, and I didn't get this to learn but instead to learn about the formation of light spells. I want to see how to make them so I can create my own offensive light spells if they are so rare.